Along Bell Brook and the uplands of Greenfield and Milton, generations of families shaped a shared tradition rooted in the forests of the Adirondack foothills. This is also the place where we were raised. Our family has lived in these hills since just after the Revolutionary War, when families began settling the lands of the Cateros Patent in what is now Saratoga County. The old basket-making mill along Mill Road still stands today. Just beyond the edge of our family land, Bell Brook, which powered that mill, continues to run through our property as it has for generations. For more than a century, the people of this small community practiced a craft with deep indigenous roots, the making of black ash baskets. Ma'ahlaux, awanihi, mahagiglidzi, sawi urliwitamino, abazano dakat, abazia. Black ash, sometimes called the basket maker's tree, grows in wet ground throughout the Northeast. When a black ash log is pounded, the softer spring growth compresses and the annual growth rings separate, allowing long, flexible splints, called wigbiak in the Western Abenaki language, to be peeled away for weaving. This technique has been used by Indigenous basket makers across the Northeast for generations. The earliest known bearer of this tradition in the Greenfield Milton Uplands was Samuel Hill, remembered in Saratoga County oral history as a native basket maker active in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. Hill traveled through Saratoga Springs and the surrounding countryside, selling baskets made from black ash gathered in the wetlands of the Cateros Uplands. Though written records of his family are sparse, his craftsmanship helped establish a basket-making tradition that would continue locally for more than a century. By the mid-19th century, this traditional craft intersected with a new technology of the day. Along Bell Brook stood a small water-powered mill that processed black ash for baskets and decorative fans. Rather than pounding each log entirely by hand, the mill used a mechanical log pounding device powered by the water of Bell Brook. The machine repeated the same pounding motion used in traditional basket making, but with the force of the brook driving the mechanism. Historical accounts suggest that very few such mechanical ash pounders were ever built, including another example associated with the Russell family of basket makers elsewhere in Greenfield. In this way, the craft combined something ancient and something new. Indigenous knowledge of black ash basketry working alongside 19th century steampunk water-powered machinery of the dawning Gilded Age. The baskets and ash fans produced in Greenfield were not made only for local use. They were sold in large numbers in nearby Saratoga Springs, which by the mid-19th century had become one of the most famous resort destinations in the United States. Visitors to the Grand Hotels and to the Saratoga Racecourse, established in 1863, often purchased lightweight black ash fans as souvenirs and practical relief from the summer heat. By the 1870s, during the height of Saratoga's resort era, historical accounts report that more than 100,000 black ash fans were sold in a single Saratoga racing season. Much of that production was supplied by factories and household workshops in the uplands around Greenfield and Milton, where families harvested black ash and split the wood into weaving splints. Although Samuel Hill himself remains only partly documented, His craft appears in records through later generations. A likely successor was Hiram Hill, born around 1790. By the mid-1800s, Truman Hill appears in census records along Bell Brook, working as a basket maker. Later still, Samuel Truman Hill, born around 1852, carried the tradition forward and is remembered as one of the last professional basket makers of the Hill family line. The Hills were part of a broader upland community whose lives and work intertwined along Bell Brook. Among them were the Dunham family, neighbors and collaborators in the ash splint craft. Our third great-grandparents, Augustus Hard Dunham and Henrietta Eliza Hobbs Dunham, farmed the rocky soil while also producing baskets at Judson D. Root's Basket Factory on Bell Brook. Their daughter, Ella Mae Dunham, later Ella Hiller, remembered helping make baskets there as a child when extra workers were needed, as did our great-great-grandfather, Edward Dunham, whose first name is carried as both my father and my brother's middle names to this day. In 1901, tragedy struck the community. Samuel Truman Hill, one of the last known Hill basket makers in the area, was found dead in Bell Brook under suspicious circumstances. A newspaper report at the time described severe injuries and suggested possible foul play. The case was never solved. Around the turn of the 20th century, basket making in Greenfield began to fade. Families increasingly turned toward farming, carpentry, metalwork, and other trades. Across the Northeast, many Indigenous and mixed heritage families also began to conceal aspects of their identity in response to discrimination and social pressure. Bell Brook still winds through Splinterville and in the North Milton Cemetery, where the Hills, Dunhams, Corpes, Rowlands, and Boyces lie within steps of one another. The story of this upland basket-making community remains quietly preserved. Today, that legacy is no longer hidden. It continues in local families and through cultural work at the Indakina Education Center, where Bell Brook still flows past the old basket factory of Judson D. Root. The history of Greenfield's basket makers was never lost. Like the baskets themselves, many still remaining in our Splinterville home and others spread across the country. Along with the fans, they remain woven into the land and memory of Indakina, our land.